So this week, as part of a running series now, we're going to go through all the Donkey Kong Country series.
Oh, that nearly went sideways.
So we've already done Donkey Kong Country, and now we've got Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. You played it on Nintendo Switch Online because it came available recently on that, correct?
Correct.
And I intended, and I've already played it on my analog, but I'm actually changing the whole setup in my room and everything like that. So I ended up just playing it on the Switch because it was just more convenient and sort of made more sense for what I needed to do.
Ooh, controversial.
Well, why is it controversial?
Because you've talked up that analog DAC so much, and then you went with the easy option.
Oh no, it's just because I had to buy a shelf, and I'm moving my Trinitron into the office. And then it's kind of like halfway through, and I just didn't have time this week.
Okay.
So. But yeah, did you want to take us off with Donkey Kong Country 2?
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, Donkey Kong Country 2 is the sequel to Donkey Kong Country 1. Now back to you.
You're an idiot.
No, so the game came out Super Nintendo, as most people know, but it's had many re-releases, as said, like Virtual Console releases and things. I'm not sure if it got a Game Boy Advance port or not.
It did.
It did,
so
yeah.
That's probably the notable one because it's not just a straight port. Like, they did make adjustments to it. So there's like some of the levels are different, and there's some stuff in the Game Boy Advance that's not in the SNES version, but the definitive version is the SNES version.
And so developed by Rare, as most people would know, published by Nintendo, and came out around December 1995, give or take, depending on the region. It actually came out a little early in Japan. This game is almost like a cornerstone of the SNES library. It's the one out of the whole series that everyone kind of always talks about. It's the Mass Effect 2 of the Donkey Kong Country series. You could say.
It's the Empire Strike Back.
Yes,
of the original trilogy. It might not be everyone's favorite in the trilogy.
No.
But I would say it is the emergent favorite. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I don't think it's debatable that you can't say it is the favorite overall.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I never had this game as a kid. You did.
Yes, I did. You had the first one, and did you have the third one as well?
So I never owned the third one, but I borrowed it for a long time off a mate.
Because for me, it felt like you had it.
No,
because you had it all the time.
No,
so I just assumed you had it.
No, so I didn't get many games as a kid on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But my mate seemed to always get the games. Or I don't know how. Well, actually, I do know how his family.
Yeah, I think we know how. Yeah. let's keep going for legal reasons.
But so he would, and he was awesome. He would just lend me the games for a month or something. I actually borrowed this off you, so it's kind of like, that just goes to show how long we've been friends, that when this game came out, in those years, that I borrowed this game off you.
That is crazy when you think how old we are, right? Like, this game came out and I was conscious and like playing games, got it, and then we talked about it and you played my version of it. Far out. That's wild, man.
Yeah. So this isn't, like two people just met up to do a podcast. It's like over 25 years.
That's so funny, man.
So yeah, it's because I own Donkey Kong Country 1, and I think you mentioned this when we reviewed Donkey Kong Country 1, that I had a lot more of a connection to number 1 than I think you did.
I didn't really play number 1 when it came out.
So the fact that I didn't own number 2 means that we kind of had, I guess, slightly different approaches to it. I think you were... I loved the game, but because I didn't have it, I was always like appreciating it from afar a bit until I get those opportunities to play it,
And can we just also say, so like, because we are so old, it's like black and white TV or something. You need to give the context of the situation, really. Like, it's so long ago. Really, the only thing we ever heard about games was like on the playground, and people would make up lies, and then the other part of it was that you'd see it through magazines. But now, now that we're a bit more cynical, the magazines, for the most part, were owned by the publishers or the platform creator. So of course they're saying this game's great, and it's like a really crappy game, and then you find out later it was owned by Nintendo, the magazine that you're buying.
Oh, Hyper wasn't. Hyper was
They
really
weren't, and that's I've got a stack of episodes. I've got all the issues behind me. Actually, I should put it on display. But
yeah.
And just before we go further into the review, I want to clarify, because you know what I'm saying about the Donkey Kong Country series, like this has become a series of reviews now. I should just call out, like, we're gonna do 1, 2, and 3, the original trilogy on the SNES, and then we're gonna cover the Donkey Kong Country Returns game on the Wii, and then Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is Wii U, and then came out on Switch as well.
So are you going to play Returns on the Wii or the 3DS?
No, I'll do it on the Wii.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, it would be fine if it's on 3DS as well.
Yeah. So I guess the game.
Yeah.
I don't.
And these games came out 1 year after the other.
That's
it's crazy.
It is insane.
Like 94, 95, 96. That's Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3. Wow.
I don't think it's going to be a spoiler or a surprise to hear that this game is just absolutely phenomenal.
It's so good.
It's crazy it's crazy this is a Super Nintendo game in so many ways. It graphically, it still looks like a masterpiece, honestly. Like, even playing it through the Switch, which is not the optimal way to play it, it still looks great. The sprite work is awesome. The art style is so much more consistent than Donkey Kong Country 1. So that game felt like a prototype in many ways. Like, it felt, even when I first played it, there's awkwardness to it. Where
it's janky.
Yeah, and
the graphics are janky, the controls are janky.
And I love Donkey Kong Country 1. It still looks great, but there's definitely, there's jankiness to it. And they just nailed the presentation here. Almost for everything. Like, I can't think of anything that looked bad in the game. It's kind of crazy.
Getting right to the end, and this is spoilers, so when you get ranked how you went, and you've got the Hall of Heroes and stuff, you could argue it's like a bit funny or whatever, but Mario looks terrible in 3D model, like so bad.
But he kind of looked a little terrible in Mario RPG as well. He looked like Mario RPG Mario.
Yes, that's actually fair. That's actually really fair what you're saying. He did look terrible in RPG. So that was the only thing that I looked at that made me go, "Whoa, that looks weird." Outside of that, it's literally perfection in my eyes. Like, how the theme of like the graphics, it's so much better than most modern games. Like, you really have distinct areas. You get a feeling for the area you're in. It's just like nothing's wasted, like the backgrounds, the foregrounds, the enemies, like everything just fits so well, and it feels very edited and refined.
Yeah, they just nailed it, and that's why that 1 year difference is just crazy to me. I have no idea how long it took them to create these 3D graphics, and then go through the process of getting them into sprites and putting them into the SNES. It's crazy because there's so much detail in this game, and just even we're focusing on graphics now, so I get into it. Towards the end of the game, there's the level where I think it's Castle Crush, where the level's going up, and it's moving upwards, and the scrolling in the background, I'm like stopping, and I'm like, it almost looks like the 3D FX chip or whatever it's called. What was it called again? The FX.
Super FX.
I'm like, man, it almost looks like that, but I think it's just really good layer scrolling, like how they've set it all up.
This doesn't have Super FX.
Yeah, exactly. But it looks 3D as you're going up, because the background looks, it looks like there's depth to it that kind of changes as you're going up. And I'm like, man, like that stuff that I didn't probably even notice as a kid that I'm paying more attention to now is how they handle all that. Because when you jump into an emulator, and some of those emulators have the ability to turn off the different layers, Super Nintendo layers. And you're like, okay, I can see the foreground layer and the background layer, blah, 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 blah. So I'm sure that you go in there, you can see how they've done it. But it's crazy. It's just absolutely insane what they've done.
And just like on the graphics, like, to me, the critical parts are like the nuanced stuff, the small stuff. Like that to me, generally Nintendo does really, really well. This is not Nintendo, but like the idle animations are so good. It's like I had to put the controller down for a second and then I picked it back up and it was like Diddy Kong does different things than Dixie, and it's just like this like little bits that just give the characters extra life. And I just so adamant that like this game is insane. Like this game, if I was Sony, I'd be like, oh my god, like we've released a brand new console and it looks better than almost all the games on the PS1. Like, and I'd probably still argue it still looks better than all the games that came out on the PS1. Like, if you didn't know this is a Super Nintendo game, and I was just comparing someone who didn't understand that, you'd probably think this is from a PlayStation or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy, and we started to see some nice sprite work. I think the Saturn had a lot of nice sprite work games, and you've got things like
Yeah.
Symphony of the Night and stuff. But it's also just the like talking about Donkey Kong Country 1. And the awkwardness there, like it looked great. The fact that they ironed all that out, and it looks smooth, and we're about to get into the other stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just graphically. I think probably and this is not a negative. It's more just probably not my style. I think sometimes some of the overworld stuff can look a little cluttered, but that's just a personal thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they
Yeah.
they threw so much detail in there that sometimes it's like, yeah, that's all. Like it's a small thing. It's such a small thing because it still looks good.
Yeah. So like, it feels unfair to say this, but so like Donkey Kong Country 1, like that was all kind of rubbish, that stuff. Donkey Kong Country 2 to me was great, but I like what they do in Donkey Kong Country 3,
Oh yeah,
where it's kind of
I
like
love
more
it.
interactive.
Yeah.
Like that's, not to get ahead of ourselves or me get ahead of ourselves, but that part of it is significantly better than Diddy's Conquest. But it wasn't a negative to me, the overworld stuff. Like I've still felt like brought it to life. It did everything it needed to do. It was kind of like, it was foreshadowing some of the stuff. Like you're starting in the early worlds and you can see some of the crazy stuff up ahead. And yeah, it's like just graphically, like for what they had, I can't even think of an example of a game that does more with so little.
Hmm. It's pretty crazy, and if it's almost with the exception of like I'd probably put number 2 and 3 on the same level for me, but there's nothing else. There's they are the top graphically on Super Nintendo. I love the art style of Yoshi's Island, but it's still not on this level. I think it's just like this is just phenomenal graphically.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm a huge fan of Yoshi's Island. I love the way Yoshi's Island looks. Like love, 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 love it. And it was very influenced by Donkey Kong Country. Like there's the whole backstory around those games, and sort of Donkey Kong Country gave a bit of a foot up the ass to Nintendo and what they could do with the console. Um, it's just different, But I think Diddy's Conquest is probably the peak in terms of graphics.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, the controls in this game are so much tighter than number one. It's just almost night and day in terms of hitboxes on the enemies as well.
Oh,
It just, you feel like you're in control of the characters this time. And like the claptrap's a perfect example. There's not that many in this game compared to the first one, and they're much bigger. But in the first one, you jump on top of claptrap, but slightly on their back, and then it would hurt you. And you'd be like, "Oh, come on, what?" The hitbox was just so weird. And there's an example of a hitbox I don't like in this, which I'll get to because I'm kind of going through the positives first. But the it just feels so much better, and part of that's also that both the characters are super mobile, but even the characters feel so different than each other. Like they've put so much time and effort into making Diddy and Dixie feel different, which is cool because
yeah,
they
and
they could have made them just play the same with one extra move, but they didn't. They actually feel different.
Yeah, and it's so much so that you could easily play this whole game with Diddy Kong and this whole game with Dixie Kong, and you're approaching some of the enemies and the challenges differently. And it's almost like an extra game because of that. Just like comparing it to Donkey Kong Country, and you kind of have to compare the
Yeah.
games. Having played it now fresh, both of these games, and we haven't even covered how I played this game because I guess infamously, I did rewind and save states and all that crap to play through Donkey Kong Country, right? But part of it was like I started playing the game and I was just kind of like, man, this is really frustrating. Like it was getting annoying. I'm doing a jump and it's like, oh, this is BS. It's not as bad as what I'm about to say, but it does remind me a little bit of. Have you ever played Street Fighter 1?
Yeah.
And then played Street Fighter 2?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, they're the same elements of the games, but Street Fighter 2 feels right, tight, like good controls. It feels like you die fairly, you live fairly, all that kind of stuff. Whereas Donkey Kong Country, I'm like fighting the controls half the time.
See, I think a better comparison is Mortal Kombat 1 to 2.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But like the overall point around...
Like less of a jump where Mortal Kombat 1's still playable and it's still fun, but it's just not tight. It's just not... Like number 2, you're just like, okay, this feels right now,
Yeah, and look, like I'm not trying to say it's as janky as Street Fighter 1 to Street Fighter 2, but it's just like, to me, it's more just about, are the controls tight or not? It's a binary thing almost, and there are worse degrees of it. But if your controls aren't tight, like I've realized now, I just don't like playing those games. Like it's so frustrating to me. Like when I feel like I've died. Because I'm not even that great at games in the first place. I've died because it's like half the controls are just bad. And the hitboxes are wrong and all this other kind of stuff. And the hurt box is wrong. And yeah, and I cannot praise this game enough. Like literally for me, there was only one single point in the whole game when I played it where I was like, I died on one point, which was I can't remember. It was deep in the game, and it was like one where it's all the vines with spikes and things like that, and there's like the wooden planks that are like the platforms you have to jump on. And there's one particular part of the game where you have to do this like roll and then jump. And to me, my eye, it's like I look like I land on the wood, and I died as if I'd hit the spikes. I was like, huh, okay, yeah, weird. I played it again and I did the exact same thing and I'm like, nah, that looks wrong to me. Like I get that it's like, it's a hurt box there, but it doesn't look right to me. But that was like the one thing in the whole game for me personally where I just felt weird. Versus Donkey Kong Country was constant.
I've definitely got some issues with the controls, but
oh really?
Specific issues, I should say.
Yeah, what?
I guess let's mention it now. So all the controls around climbing the chains and the ropes. Specifically, specifically the and this rears its head at the end of the game when you got that that level where it's all about climbing vertically up the whole tower. I had no issues. I didn't really die much in the game at all up until there's one other level which I'll mention soon, but up until there where it just you would jump towards the chain and I would be expecting to press up, but you got to press across, and it's just there's so many times where I died where I'm like, I pressed this. What? It just feels like to me, and I could be wrong, but I think they cleaned that part up in number 3 quite a bit for, especially like towards the end of that level, you've got quite a bit of. Towards the end of that game, you've got quite a bit of like stuff where you go on ropes and stuff, but. That's that, and like when you're in the middle of the game in the swamp with the reeds, I found that it was also a problem then because I was trying to play on the Joy-Cons and I swapped to the Pro Controller when I got out of the hospital, and that's the only time that I didn't like the controls. So that is a nitpick, but we're at the point where the only I feel like I have to nitpick this game because so much of it is done so well. So the controls are amazing. Yeah. But I did have issues with how that stuff works. I felt that could have been a bit better. But
I mean, even for me on those, I did find myself naturally switching from the analog stick to like the digital D-pad, like the button D-pad.
Yeah, I was using the D-pad.
And I think part of it was because it was like, I knew it was going to be a certain direction, if I did it like that. So I do kind of get what you're saying. Like it is a bit, it's like finicky
Yeah.
is how I would look at it. I found it was consistent in what it was trying to do. It just was like you had to get your head around what it was trying to do. And then I was pretty much consistent all the way through once I got that.
The other thing, and this was more annoying when I was playing Joy-Cons, was I wish the swap, when you swap between characters, I wish that wasn't select. Now, I don't know, I can't remember if I know the triggers were used for like the spider ability and stuff, but
Oh, was it? I never used the triggers. I don't like the L and R buttons.
yeah. So for some reason swapping just felt like an unnatural button to press, and I can't remember what it was in number one, if it was the same or not. But
Well, I don't think I ever swapped in number one, to be honest.
I swapped all the time because you've got characters that
really?
Donkey Kong could kill and Donkey Kong. Well,
Yeah.
but you also save scum, so you probably didn't need to.
Save scum. No, but I just think this game is built much more around the idea that Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong are different.
I swapped
versus-
all the time in this game because
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough. Yeah. I just didn't have that
Yeah,
experience. And it wasn't like the save state thing. It was just like, didn't feel like I needed to.
yeah, and that's a tiny thing, but yeah, and I guess we've got to get to it. We're going to get to the music.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Oh, this, and I have a feeling. Look, number one and number two, I think, are probably stronger than number three in this regard. But both these games, like, what can you say? Number two's music is just, oh my god! Like, it has. All right, so I actually think number one has more standouts, but number two has Sticker Brush Symphony, which is probably my favorite video game song. It is just amazing. Sticker Brush Symphony, you've got Forest Interlude, is just so good. There's the song Mining Melancholy when you're in like the mine shaft levels, but which actually reminds me a bit of the Final Fantasy VII Turk theme, a bit with how it kind of uses bass and stuff. But what I really love about the music is actually how they do really atmospheric sounds.
Yeah.
So they've got wind at the start. When you're in the ship level when you're swimming, it's got like underwater sounds that sound like they're muffled. You got crickets in the swamp. The production is insane. It is absolutely insane.
Well, it's even I know we're talking about music, but like sound in general and the sound effects. Like even the animals or the creatures that are like chomping, the way it sounds, it's like a really like tactile, like I don't know, it's just like not like anything you'd heard in games before. Like it's just like so on point, the sound. Like for me, at least personally, I don't think it was one single part of the game where I didn't feel like the music fit and added to the game.
No, that's also like there's certain tracks that like I think Donkey Kong Country 1 just had more of the tracks that I like, but this like just even the themes, you know, the overall theme is awesome. Like the theme when you're first on the ship, like what can you say? Like everyone knows that this game soundtrack is just legendary. It's kind of hard to. I don't think there's anything negative at all you could say.
No,
about the sound.
Not definitely not with the sound. Yeah, not at all.
Man, yeah, it's
and just the game itself. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I would, for me, I guess, and in this part of the game, the difficulty curve is so much better in this game than number one. It's much harder than number one, but the enemy placement is fairer. So the problem with Donkey Kong Country 1 is it would throw so many things at you that you just weren't expecting or you couldn't expect. It had way more...
It was cheap.
Yeah, it had way more leaps of faith. Now, they will throw troll enemies at you every now and then in this. Like, I think there's a level where... I think it's one of the Bramble levels where you go through the whole thing and right at the end they throw a claptrap at you. That's fine every now and then, you know? But... the difficulty curve is great. It starts off really easy and it goes up, but it is much harder than number one. The one thing I'll say is that I think the end run is a little unbalanced. I think it's honestly a bit rough, those last few levels. Like since I was a kid, I was able to get through it much easier. But I remember going through it the first time as a kid. Like some of those levels are rough, and
Yeah.
they don't give you like I think one of the levels either I missed the midpoint or there wasn't a midpoint, but it's like man, some of this stuff I feel like that kind of comes out of nowhere. That run of levels, but I will say that the level that I was dreading, and I'm like, is it one of those secret Lost World levels or is it normal level? But it was
Yeah.
the last level, which was the race against the parrot in the brambles, Screech's Scramble, or whatever
Oh
it's
yeah,
called.
that was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember just that level's the bane of my existence as a kid. And I loved it this time. I'm like, I love this level now because it just felt cool to kind of like
Yeah.
destroy it, come back and kill it. The thing is, I didn't go and get all DK stuff in that level. I ended up I think I ended up about 60% or something. But
Oh, like overall.
yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what I ended up on as well.
wow, there you go. So, and I went out of my way to get stuff, but I didn't replay levels if I missed them. And yeah, that. So I do think that last run of levels is a bit rough. I don't know if it's because they just. I don't know. It just felt like that's the only part of the level where I think the game where I think the difficulty was a little unbalanced.
So, like, just from a difficulty perspective, like, it sounds weird what I'm going to say, but I kind of felt like this wasn't as difficult as Donkey Kong Country. But to me, it's because I felt like Donkey Kong Country was so cheap and so frustrating at times with like jumps and certain, just the controls and the whole setup of the game. Whereas with this, I felt like you could always do it. Like, it never felt like, oh my God, how the hell are you ever going to beat this? Like, whereas with Donkey Kong Country, it was just like, oh my God, I'm like, I don't even want to play it.
Well, bosses are way harder in this, though.
Yeah, well, they're bosses.
Yeah.
Versus guys that just go back and forth or whatever. And so like, I get it. I still probably, have to even concede that this game is more difficult, but it's just so much more fair, so much more balanced. The way the game amps up the difficulty. Like at the start, I was like, okay, maybe this game's not as hard as I remember it being. And then, yeah, you get to like the Lost World levels, which I'd only beat and played one of them. And that was like way harder. I was like, and it was cool. It was actually a nice challenge. And then, I've obviously, like, we haven't really touched on it much, but there's so many secrets baked into the levels.
That was the next thing I was going to talk about.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. Like, it's a sign of, like, because I don't have much time. Like, I have to really try to allocate my time well each week. But I found myself, like, I had to actually stop myself because I started to collect everything. I was just enjoying the game so much. To me, it feels like you're communicating with the developers a bit. Like, versus the first one, which felt so cheap at times, this one is like, it's cheeky. It's like, I can see what they're doing with something. Like, they'll give you a bit of a hint, or you'll get through a section and then you'll go, hey, wait a second, there's a whole nother section there. Or there's like an exit box where you go, oh, wait a second, I could have picked up Squawk or something like that, one of the animal friends. And it's constantly throughout this game where you're like, okay, like, that's giving me a hint there's something there, and there's other ways to figure out where the secrets are because you can talk to, the Kong cast. Like, they have like lots of tips on, where to go or where the secrets are. And it's just so rich, the amount of secrets in this game. And I had to stop myself from collecting stuff because I was like, I got to get through this game and beat King K. Rool or else I won't hear the end of it.
Yeah, this is one of the first games I can think of, with the exception of maybe Mario World, where it made getting the secrets feel worth it. And
yeah,
and when you're playing the game, you don't even kind of know why. You're like, like the DK coins,
it's fun.
the DK coins, which is such a brilliant idea. You don't even know why you want them, but you try so hard. You're like, I really want that. You don't even know why. At that point, if you've played the game, and the bonus levels are super creative. It's crazy, and I think they, this is essentially the model they follow for number 3 as well. I can't remember if they do anything on that. I don't think they do in the Returns games, do they? I don't think they do anything on this specific.
Do any what?
Like, they don't do any DK coin stuff, do they?
In what?
In the Returns games.
Oh no, but they have a lot of collectibles.
Yeah. Okay. So
so they still got all of that stuff, but as opposed to this game, the one thing about this game though for me is there's no way to tell if you've gone through all the bonus exits, as far as I could tell. Like it tells you if you've done the DK coin, but I don't think it
it
tells you
does.
if you've done
Yeah,
all
it
the
does.
exits.
It puts an
How?
exclamation mark at the end of the level name.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't noticed that. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Because I haven't gone back to the levels. I was just trying to collect them as I went through. Okay, that's pretty sick.
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So it's just so cool. And while I definitely didn't do everything, the whole Lost World thing is awesome.
Did you go in through any of them, or
No, I unlocked 4 of them out of 5 or whatever it is. But then I just didn't play any of them because I wanted to make sure I finished the game.
So you could actually say that I've played more of this game.
Technically, yes, you have.
There you go. I'm the better gamer.
Yeah,
It's proven after all.
So, and the Lost World, I mean, it's very Super Mario World with the Star Road or whatever it's called, but but you have to earn it much more in this.
Yeah.
It feels really like, oh man, like I worked my ass off to get these coins and pay this dude. And I guess
I like how it says you want to fight him, and it's like you can't, like it doesn't do anything. It's like run away or fight him. You pick either. Just you're out of there.
But the new animal buddies they added, fantastic. They added charge moves to Engard, Rambi, the spider Squidder, and such a cool idea. Like
the spider's so
angling
cool,
the shots up and down and creating the platforms. Whoever came up with that is a genius. Like they nailed it, and it feels right. That's the important part. It doesn't feel awkward. It feels right.
No, it feels natural. You just get it, and you're playing it. It's easy.
Look, so probably the levels I love the most. So I love Bramble Blast. That's just so cool. Anytime that I play, two of my 3 levels, both the Bramble levels.
Bramble Blast is like top 3 for me in this game.
And
that's a like, if you wanted to put a video game Hall of Fame level. That would be a contender, man. Like, all up, the whole package.
Yeah, I really liked Rambi Rumble as well. I thought that was a really cool stage.
Yeah, I love that one as well.
But, and I put as my 3rd one is that Screecher Sprint. I actually like it. I really, really like it now. I used to hate that as a kid.
I liked it.
So, but, and I guess for me, this is a bit more graphically, but I love the settings, you've got like the bayou or swamp water, I can never say the word, or like the different, I guess, like settings of each world. The beehive just looks so cool. I love it. Sometimes a bit hard to see stuff, but it's cool. It's fine. You get it, you live with it. The ship, but the brambles, like other than the hurtbox issue you said, like everything else about that stage with the layered brambles in the background is really cool. So
yeah, and one thing I love about this game so much, and I gush about it forever, is it's so intelligent, and it's such like a nod to the audience, which is very rare in games in general. But like this is back in the 90s, man. It's like the fact that they didn't put a minecart level early in the game. It was like halfway through, which that was very like famous part of the series. They had that in their ads. It's almost like everything in this game you earn it. It's like it's there, but you have to earn it. And like getting up to like World 4, it's not like the easiest thing ever. And it's just like, and when they finally do have the minecart levels, because it was a bit over the top in Donkey Kong Country 1, where it felt like way too many and they were just too similar. Like these ones are just awesome, like, and in a way they're a lot easier than the Donkey Kong Country ones. Like I think I only died once or twice on all the minecart levels because everything's kind of flagged to you, whereas in Donkey Kong Country 1 it's so cheap. Like you have to keep playing it over and over again to learn the pattern. But they were just so awesome, and it actually handled well as well, which is tricky to do. I just love how they just paced this game, like in what they gave you, what they took away. It's just so cool. So cool.
The bosses are
really, I want to get to the bosses.
They're really inventive in this one.
They're so good.
They mix up the formula and make you actually use the environment, which is something that like, you see a lot now in these days, but back then you didn't see that. I think Contra 3 did it a bit where you have to climb around the walls and stuff. And there's games where you find examples. But
Mega Man does some of that.
But they just kind of just go crazy in this, and they're tough, like they're especially as a kid. I found some of these tricky. I did hate one of them though.
Which one?
The cudgel one. So that's the big dude.
Oh, is that the sword?
No. So I like the sword.
Oh.
It's the big dude in the swamp that drops down. He just keeps falling, and he's got that giant club that takes up half the screen. And the reason
Oh, yeah. Oh,
the
okay.
reason
Yeah,
I
go on.
don't like the boss is because I found that he had a bit of a wonky hitbox, and that's I just didn't find the boss that exciting. He just you just kept moving side to side. Whereas the other bosses felt a lot more creative. So that's the only boss I
Yeah,
didn't like.
I think he was the most straightforward, like boring one,
Yeah.
but I thought it was funny because it's the same guy, isn't it? That you have to talk to get,
No,
or is it
no.
it's similar to that
Similar,
kind of type of guy? Yeah.
but not the same dude.
I didn't have much of an issue with that one. The one that I didn't like was the sword one, just because I felt like jumping over the sword. I always had trick, like I just couldn't do it. Like it didn't. I couldn't work out the spacing of it, so I would always lose one of my characters at the start. It would really piss me off. Like I tried it a few different ways, and I don't know, just the way I was jumping, obviously, just wasn't right. I need to look at a video or something, but that was the only one I had like difficulty with. But yeah, look, like they're all really, really cool. Like they're not easy at all. They feel like bosses. It feels like once you get through it. And then I don't know if you played much of Donkey Kong Country Returns and those games.
I've always played like the first
kind
world of Returns.
yeah, they kind of lean into the whole boss thing a bit, you know. And I don't know why, but I always find it funny because generally Nintendo's formula is 3. It's like you hit them 3 times and then they're dead. And it always feels like in Donkey Kong Country series, it's like 4 times generally.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something about that always like annoys me because I always think, oh, it's dead. Oh no, I gotta hit it again.
But this game also does the Dark Souls thing. I love it, where it's like, you think the boss is dead? Phase 2.
Yeah, well, you know, I did actually think of Dark Souls. I haven't played Dark Souls, but I didn't want to bring it up, so I'm glad that you did because it did make me laugh because I was thinking this is like proto Dark Souls.
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing in plenty of games. It just reminded me. But and the K. Rool fight is great. I thought I really liked the K. Rool fight in the first game as well.
Well,
But
I think it's better the K. Rool one in the first game. That's probably the only thing I'm going to concede is better in the first game.
I like this one because I like the setting more.
You prefer it?
Yeah, I like the one in this one more because they got
It's fairer.
they got kind of a lot more creative. Like, okay, he goes invisible for one move, and like I think it's pretty cool. But it's honestly all the bosses. And I didn't fight the Lost World version of K. Rool because we didn't go through all those levels. But
yeah, true. We didn't go through that. Yeah,
but I swear I remember him being much harder. All the bosses, honestly.
You know what? I have to say, I must have a recollection of playing K. Rool, the Lost World version of it.
Yeah.
Because I have this recollection like this being impossible, right? So when I started playing it, I was like, oh my God. I was actually thinking to myself when I first played K. Rool, and I'm like, oh man, am I going to get through this? Because I haven't even mentioned it, but I didn't, do save states, rewind, anything like that. So I played it legit, right? So, you challenged me to do that. That's what I did for this. And then I was getting up to K. Rool and I'm like, oh man, if I can't beat this, I'm going to be embarrassed. This is going to be so annoying. I felt like it was a real possibility because my recollection as a kid, it was like impossible or something, really, really hard. And I think the first time I got up to the last phase, like, not phase, but the last component that you had to kill, which was the purple reversing controls part, and I died, and then I couldn't beat him. And then I was like, well, the thing is, I was playing it on Joy-Cons.
That's rough.
And then later, I played it on the Super Nintendo controller that they released, and it took 2 goes, and I was able to beat him. So I spent like 20 times trying to beat him on Joy-Cons, which I just couldn't. And then I switched to a proper controller and beat him like after 2 goes. But it was a really, really cool fight.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird, how he kept on, kind of dying and then not. I kind of wish they would change the environment or something like that at one point of those things, just to make it a bit more visually interesting. But it was a really cool fight. I liked it.
Well, yeah, I don't know if that technically would have been tricky for them to do, but
True.
But
or like even like pretend it's finished and load up a new level or something.
Man, I'm looking forward to the fight number 3. I love that one so much. I love all the bosses.
See, I don't. And I probably should flag to everyone. I've only played like the first 2 worlds in Donkey Kong Country 3, and it didn't grip me, and then I just gave it up. So I'm actually super looking forward to playing it after playing this game.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm trying not to have the same hype level, but man, this game is just like as perfect as you can get for what it's trying to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's just a couple of things. Sorry, there's probably the one last thing that I negative towards the game for me is, and this is a personal preference. The kind of middle part of the game, the environments don't grip me. The thing is that it's really consistent. We talked about that as well, is that like it's really cool what they do with the environments, but when you start going through the fire area and then the swamp area and then the forest, like that middle part of the game kind of drags a little bit visually for me, even though it looks great, if that makes sense. It's like it looks fantastic, but I'm like, oh, the swamp levels. I don't know why. I just don't get excited about playing them as opposed to when I get to like the theme park level and things like that. So
yeah, look, and there's a personal preference kind of thing as well.
Yeah,
look, like I would rarely say this, but I actually, because this game holds up. This game holds up, man.
Oh,
and
definitely.
I think like I'll probably replay this game again, and I don't know. I could actually see myself trying to get to 102%, which is like the max out percent. It's just such a fun game, man. It's so good. It's just very fair in what it's trying to do, and just very fun and very creative.
You should try to max out when you play number 3, because that'll be a new experience, and that has lots of secrets.
Actually, yeah. I'm going to set up my office, so yeah, I'll try to play that on the Trinitron and see how I go. I just heard it's a bit longer, so I don't know if I have the time to try to do that.
I can't remember if it's much longer.
Okay,
maybe
because this one's about 40% longer from a time perspective, generally for people. Yeah. So then the first game, I should say. But yeah, no, it's such an awesome game, amazing. And was there anything else you wanted to cover with DKCE 2?
No, I just think we're gonna give our thoughts on where this fits in the in the realm of everything, aren't we?
Well, okay, so, and I'll for those following along on YouTube, but obviously we'll talk about it still. So, because we had this conversation just around like, what are we doing with this kind of stuff? Because we're pretty ad hoc. Like even last week with Mike, I'm like, we don't really have a rating scale or anything. So it's like, what do you give it? So I think before we get ahead of 200 episodes in, maybe it's a good idea to come up with a concept. So what we're doing is we're really, instead of just giving a game a number, which I think there's plenty of places to do that, we're looking at sort of genres, and it's our opinion of genres, not like what the consensus is, and rating games on the scale of bad to average and then good, and just like where it fits in that continuum. And I hope with time, we keep adding games, and maybe even we debate about where the existing games sit on that spectrum. So just given that we're sort of doing this, I thought maybe we could go back and quickly get through the games we'd already covered and where they would sit, and then get into DKC2. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. I do have a question. So we have to agree on where it sits?
Well, so I had the initial design of this. I had like my view, your view, and then the consensus view. But then I thought, it's just visually a bit messy. So look, I think like we're pretty good at negotiating this stuff. I think it's more about like how passionate do you feel about it? Have you played it? All that kind of stuff.
And the only time we need to agree is when it's a circumstance where we're both playing through, as opposed to if we're reviewing or something, a game, like I'm just doing it, then I'll just rate it,
Yeah, of course. And then I won't have a view on it. So if we had this for Mike, we'd put whatever he rated it, and that would be the rating.
Yeah.
So until we play Hades, which I'm sure we will one day. All right, well, let's do Bonk. So, and also what we're saying here is that average is kind of like, it's not a bad game. It's not even necessarily a good game. It's kind of neither. It's just perfectly average.
It's Aladdin on Super Nintendo. That's what we've got as our average.
Which is our best kind of guess. And then for our bad game, do you want to cover this one?
We've got Bible Adventures on the NES.
Which is very much made famous by James Rolfe from Angry Video Game Nerd. And then finally, for the good game. So the idea of good game, it's like a 10 out of 10, perfect, and also we tried to pick a game that is not a debatable one, because I initially was saying like we should put Yoshi's Island, but there are people who don't like Yoshi's Island. I don't understand that, but Super Mario Brothers 3 is what we've selected as the perfect 2D platformer. So that's the benchmark.
I think that makes sense. And I have to kind of, I also am going to kind of, you know, like I
defer a little bit.
Yeah, because like Mario 3 is like, I wouldn't put that as the echelon, but a lot of people consider it as the kind of the top thing. So it makes sense to me why we've got that there.
Yeah, and for me, definitely is like a perfect game. Like, and I've also been a bit cute because I've got a little bit of space to the right and the left. So there could be games that we consider better than Super Mario 3, worse than Bible Adventures on the bad side. And I think in general, it's like the average line. Our assessment is it's a bad game or a good game, fundamentally.
Yeah.
And then, you know, ranges. So let's have a crack at Bonks. I mean, like, I feel like it's a little bit unfair because we didn't give it a huge fair shake of the sauce bottle, as Kevin Rudd said.
Played through 70%, 60 to 70% of the game. I think it's enough to rate. A
good game, yeah? Like, we're already in that realm, yeah?
Yeah, I'd probably... maybe, like... I don't know. I'd kind of put it above the E myself, but... Like, at the E in average.
Oh, okay. So, on the visual...
Yeah, sorry. The word average is kind of in the middle, so right of the middle.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm sitting for Bonk. I'm happy.
Yeah, so like if I'm looking at it, it's like about 1/3 from like where Aladdin is all the way to
watch
Super
the clip
Mario
on YouTube. It'll be much easier to follow.
I think it does make sense. That's kind of my gut feel. I was almost going a little bit to the left of that, to be perfectly frank.
No, I think
like I liked it. It was fun, but it's just
I think that's a good spot for it because it is actually there's some really really good stuff in Bonk.
That's true, and that game was really early, man. That's like way before these games.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. It came out around the same time as Super Mario 3. All right, yeah, cool. Let's keep it there. All right, Donkey Kong Country 1. Now, I mean, like, because I actually love this kind of format because it forces us to say, is Donkey Kong Country 1 better than Aladdin, better than Bonk, worse than Bonk? You know what I mean? It kind of like forces our hand in terms of the scoring.
Yeah, I'd go more right.
So better than Bonk?
Oh, way better. Yep. I love Donkey Kong Country 1.
Oh, way better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd go a bit more right, just a little bit more right. I reckon about there.
Yeah, I can get on board.
Yeah, because
so what we've said is it's kind of about 2/3 of the way from like Aladdin to Super Mario Brothers.
It's like a 7 on the scale of 10.
Yeah. If Mario was a 10, then yeah, it'd probably be around a 7.
This is why numbers end up being useful.
No, but the one thing that numbers doesn't give you is like comparison between the same games.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know. Yeah. So like we're early days here. We'll have a stack of games on here eventually. Now, Donkey Kong Country 2.
I mean...
So this is fun. This is fun because we've got Super Mario 3 is the 10. Now, the debate now rests around, like, how good is it? So, is it better than Super Mario 3?
I'd say just left of Aladdin. So, look, I definitely like this game more than Mario 3, but... So it almost kind of would make sense to me to sit it on Mario 3 or just left of Mario 3.
Yeah.
It's like this, we've chosen, to start this off, we've chosen one of the greatest 2D platformers of all time. So it's not like we're like blowing our load early or anything like, oh, we're suddenly got to go with that. It's one of the greatest 2D platforms of all time. So
like I'd actually played Super Mario 3 recently, like the whole game, and beat it. And I was like, wow, this game is so good. And playing Donkey Kong Country 2 again, I had the exact same feeling, to be honest. Like, it is such, like, it so lived up to the hype in my mind around it. I had a joy playing it. Like, I loved playing it.
Yeah.
This is a tough one, dude, because I got to give the context to everything. It's like, the Super Nintendo had killer 2D platformers on it. Like, just off the top of my head, Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, and DKC 2. Man, you could just go, there's the 3, and put it in any order. Like, and I'm not thinking you're crazy. Any order, it'd be fine.
Yeah,
Personally, like, yeah, go on. Sorry.
I'm kind of the opinion that like if I was rating this for myself, it would be left of good, just left, and then
And by the way, when we say good, should I change that to perfect?
okay, that's,
Because good seems like so silly to say Super Mario 3 good.
but
Wait, I'll change that later to
yeah,
perfect.
but
And bad, should I change to terrible?
just change it to Bible Adventures. So, but the reason being is because I know that like when we're rating these things, that if I wanted to place Yoshi's Island on here, that'd be the one that I'd place above.
But then that's kind of, that's playing in my head as well. It's like, do I legitimately think this game is better than Yoshi's Island? For me personally, no. But it's a good conversation. It's like right in there. I think I might rate this better than Super Mario World. I need to go back and play Super Mario World.
Yeah,
but just gut feel.
I probably think this is just slightly better, and I love Mario World.
Yes, dude, same. Like that game, went through all of it. What was it? 96 exits, all that kind of stuff. Love that game to death. But this game is just like, there's something about the game, just everything about it to me is just on point. You know, like the music, the way it plays with what your expectations are, the controls, everything. Whoa! All right.
So I think just slightly left.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm gonna put it like, whoa, we can just go pixels here.
Just go like 3 pixels.
3 pixels. I've literally put a 3 pixels to Super Mario 3. Where it's like ever so slightly, lesser.
1 pixel for the wonky rope climbing, 1 pixel for the clubber boss,
hitbox,
and 1 pixel for the Windy Well level.
Windy Well.
That's that level we.
You didn't like that
level? Man, I died so much on that level. Screw that level.
You are a human after all. Okay, I like this format. So what we'll do is, as the games come up that we review, it's our opinion. We don't care what you think.
The thing is, though, we're never going to play any terrible games. So,
well, yeah, that's
unless
true.
there is a recommendation feature that we're planning that
yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
I think because I love logarithmic scales, I think I need to make it almost more like logarithmic. Because you're right, like that's why I had less space in bad, but I probably need even less space because I'm already thinking this space up here is going to get cluttered, like of the perfect games. So yeah, I like this format. We'll do it whenever we're covering other games, but I think given that we're doing this whole DKC series, we're going to get a lot more 2D platformers on here. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what other games that we're coming up to review. Well, we've got like the whole 2011 stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Game of some other year. So that's going to have heaps of different ones. So, yeah. All right, well, our official verdict is Donkey Kong Country 2, ever so slight, 3 pixels less than perfection of Super Mario Bros. 3, but I would put this in the you have to play this game category if you're a gamer.
No question. It's
and it's not that long.
I'd be really interested to see what someone who's never played this game played it today, how they felt, and I think it holds up, but you never know.
I think it holds up. It definitely holds up. Nah. You know why? Because so Donkey Kong Country, I feel like you're being too lenient. I actually think this should be further to the left.
I love Donkey Kong Country. I said it.
I reckon we push this to the left.
I said it last when we reviewed it. That I reckon it's one of the best pure platforms on the system. Because it and as in just literally just like running around doing stuff. I actually think.
I reckon we should push it to the left.
Nah, music, presentation, it's so much.
Okay, I'll only keep it there just because I'll give it a few things. It's for what it did as the first type of game. It blew away people. So I'll keep it there. Yeah, I think that's fair. But just on a pure game, if I was like fresh, it'd probably be way to the left.
I still love that game.
It might even be below Bonk, like if it was just fresh. So yeah, no, but
insane. You're insane.
Donkey Kong Country 2 is genuinely in a very rare class of games for me that I feel like you have to. It's like the classics from a literary perspective. Like you just have to go back and play it. Like it's just a must play game. It's so good. All right, cool. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on around Donkey Kong Country 2 before we wrap up?
No, give it a shot. It's on Nintendo Switch SNES app. Play it.
Yeah, it's very accessible these days. So have a crack. It's really good fun. Awesome.